On today's episode, we welcome a special guest, Chris Carman, founder of Pipeline Network. Chris, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So, what made you start your business as a Pipeline Network and what inspired you to do it?
Yeah, so a couple of things actually. Back in the 90s, I was kind of an operations manager. Yeah, I know. Can you believe it? We had technology. This was almost pre-internet boom, and but I was a national account manager at the time for retail chains, and was involved with getting their phone system and phone services up, and so. It was just all the chaos that went along with that and finding the right people to do it all across the country and um, basically having to reiterate myself a million times, every time we did one. And that was a little frustrating. So I thought, wouldn't it be nice if I could just go to one place and have them deploy? And then a few years later, 20, I don't know, 2009, around then, I became a VP of channel manager for a voice over IP company. And my role was recruiting dealers. And over, they were telling me, look, we want to do it. We want to sell your stuff, but we don't want to be involved with installing it. Well, because that had kind of been my expertise, my answer was like, that's the easy part. We'll take care of it for you. Don't worry about it. And it was a new company that didn't really have a professional services division. And so I just started doing it. And that led to me launching and starting what at the time was called Ready Professional Services. That was in 2011. And then in about, I think 2019 or so, we just changed our name to Pipeline Networks through an ownership change. So um, that was it. It was really, I wanted it for myself. And then I saw the need and I just filled it.
And why those though did those company didn't want to like install it? Was there a reason just
Yeah.
question of like moving everywhere or was there a reason?
Yeah, they're more MSPs. That was kind of during the transition from traditional telecom to voice over IP, and everything was network and internet based. And so these companies were used to anything on the internet, anything on a network, and they were all a bunch of smart guys that sat behind a computer and programmed stuff, and none of them wanted to turn a screwdriver.
Wow.
And they just, not that they thought it was beneath them, but it just wasn't their skill set. They were focused on doing other things. And so to be able to outsource that was like a godsend for them. They didn't want to have anything to do with it in some ways. So
I understand. And as the CEO of the business right now, are you still the one going on the field and like implementing those systems, or you're more decision
no.
making? What's your role in the business?
Yeah, no, when I started, I did a lot of that, but no, I mainly try to run the business and dictate the technology. I spent a lot of my time trying to use available technologies to make us more efficient. As we have grown and as times have changed, we've had to do that just to handle the scale
Mhm.
without just adding a bunch of bodies so that we can manage the amount of jobs with fewer people. We've only raised our rates one time since I started. So I'm pretty proud of that, but a lot of that has come through the advantages of the technologies we have today, and the efficiency gains have allowed us to do that because labor rates have certainly increased,
Mhm.
as everyone knows.
Mhm.
So
And what tech did you try implementing or using more? What did you try?
yeah, so we built that one simple thing that we did just last year, which has been a huge thing, or maybe 2 years ago. We built a dashboard. We're managing anywhere from 15 to 20 jobs a day, and all over the country, different time zones, different things. And so knowing who's where, when they're there, how long they've been there at a glance is the dashboard we built basically. So we can see who's in the field, what's going on, and if something's hitting a threshold of going longer than we expect,
Mm.
uh, we can see all that at a glance. So being able to manage that has been a big part of it. Being able to what we call dispatch in a quick way, which is creating the order, finding, creating the site, dispatching it, getting assigned to a local person with the right skill set in the right place at the right time. Uh, there's a lot of, thinking that has to go into that. So the more we can automate that, the quicker it gets done. And so that's what I've spent most of my time because I enjoy it. It's really fun to kind of see those things happen and realize, wow, we haven't had to add any bodies and we've grown 50%. It's kind of a nice thing. So that's
Have you ever,
most of my time there. Trying to end sales, trying to make sure people know we exist and what we do and find the right partner
mhm.
uh, that wants to work with us. So
And
those are
how did you try bringing AI into that whole thing? You see
getting there. We're getting there. We haven't done a lot other than, some of the easy stuff of automating emails and
yeah.
summaries and that kind of stuff. But
Okay, nice.
no, it's something I keep looking at. I think I have always said I feel like our business is so unique. We sort of get lumped into this IT company. Oh, you're an IT company, and everybody thinks they know what we do, but we're really not that.
Hmm.
We are a service arm
Yeah.
for IT companies.
Mhm.
And so, yes, we do all of the stuff in IT, but we are not out finding the customers, selling them. We're servicing another company's customers, right?
Huh.
Which,
Yeah.
so we're being hired by by a
Mhm.
technology
Right.
company to go out to their customer
Yeah.
and install some stuff. And so that's very relational and it's very yeah, some companies get nervous about us going out, so we have to be very clear that we're not competing with them, that we're really there servicing them, and that relationship they have with their customer is just as important to us as it is to them. So
Did you guys saw like a big change coming in with like COVID where basically all the MSPs went digital from that base? Because I did talk with MSPs CEOs, they talk about how they were on site for like problem at some point and now they just switched it all to like
yeah,
remote. So
yeah,
what changed a lot in those technology when that came in with like COVID or even after? Was there a big change for you guys to like implement stuff in those business?
yeah. That was a huge year for us. I almost felt bad saying it at the time. It was our best year to date.
Yeah.
And the reason being is a lot of these companies were they had their techs and they were putting them on planes and they'd go out and do their thing. And when that sort of came to a crash, um, we had to scale. So we at the time were helping a lot of these companies, but we were sort of their overflow, if you will. They
Mhm.
had their techs that could handle so much, and when they had more business than they could handle, they would use us.
Mhm.
And so it went from getting, maybe 10, 20% of their work to 100%. And we had to do that very quickly. It was chaotic, and at the same time, we were going through the transition to remote. We had our big office and smiley faces all around, and then everybody wanted to stay home, and
Mhm.
we have remained that way, and a
Huh.
lot of companies have. So,
Nice.
um, a lot of my employees at the time thought, "Hey, I haven't seen you in 6 months. I've been thinking about moving. I'm in California, so everybody's leaving California. So everybody was like, I want to move to Washington. I'm going to go to Texas or whatever. I'm like, let's try it. And so now we have a very mobile workforce.
Mm.
Obviously, our technicians have always been spread out locally, but our core, project managers and engineers that do a lot of the support and the scheduling and all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes also went remote. And so it was an interesting year. So we went through that transition and scaled, nearly 100% that year.
Mhm.
So that was a real kind of a litmus test for us to see is this a good model? When I started, and I told people what I was doing, they're like, huh, okay. That sounds kind of weird because the model has always been, recurring revenue
Mhm.
and getting these support contracts and that kind of thing. That's where the money is. And that's still is that's still the case. It's a great model.
Mhm.
So when we were saying, well, we're going to hitch our wagon to some of these companies and be the deployment arm for them, they're like, okay, a lot of people look at the install as either a hassle or
Mhm.
almost like a lost leader to get the support contract. And so for us to make that our primary product, if you will, oh, yeah, a lot of people thought was weird. Now, post COVID, people now think I was a genius, which I don't think so, but it has proven out because a lot of those companies after that transition saw the benefit and the scalability of using a company like ours and have kept it that way. So we've been growing ever since.
Did you basically see your business as like an ROI upgrading? Like because those businesses, let's say the MSPs, they usually want to go outside of local. So whenever they want to go outside local, then they probably have to go to you to get
Right.
all those installation. So
Yeah.
does business come to you and then they are able to scale way much because of you guys can go and install those guys
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah, we can kind of check that box for them when
Hmm.
somebody says, "Hey, can you support us in Texas? Can you support us in Florida?"
Yeah, yeah.
Um, they don't have to go, well, they could just say yes, and it's a no-brainer
Hmm.
uh, for them. So
And I think you talked about you had to do like the 100% of the work when COVID happened and that remote all that happened. Do you guys have like IT guys to go on site to like repair IT problems, or it's really just to install the systems?
yeah, no, we do a lot of break fix stuff as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
So like I kind of mentioned, I was working for a voice over IP provider and it was hearing we didn't want to install. So when we started, we were very heavy on voice over IP installations.
Mhm.
Um, Anything on a network is pretty much the same
Yeah.
thing. Your technology works if it's installed properly.
Mhm.
So, that while we were doing Wi-Fi and cameras and other things too, we were so focused on voice over IP in the beginning that was really where we're at. And so when companies, was considered essential, communication. So when companies were trying to transition during COVID and there was the shutdown, we were still able to have a local resource, and that had all of its own challenges, of vaccinations and masks and all this kinds of stuff. So um, yeah, it was a natural transition from VoIP to more. We do a lot more network type deployments than we still do a lot of VoIP. I mean, we do because we can go in and test the network. We know what to look for, and that was our roots that we work with a lot of voice over IP providers to deploy. They're selling it and they ship the stuff out and it sits in a corner at the customer. And they can't start billing until those phones get plugged in and working. So, we have one example of a company that they had like a 90-day time to billing. And so that's, not good. And, they'd ship them out and somebody at the office would have to get to. And these are not all big offices. A lot of them don't even have an IT company.
Mhm.
They've just got, handful of people in the office. Nobody knows how to do the phones. So they started sending us in the day after the phones would land. We'd fire them up, they'd start working, and they can start billing. And so we took that down from 90 to 9, which was
Hmm.
a real feather in our cap, we thought. So,
Hmm. And did you saw some MSPs business that sometime will, like you just said, they have like a 90 day to like install all their systems for the
Mhm.
payout? Do sometimes they think like, oh, I want you to install like 200 phones, and they think you can do it in like 2 weeks or a week or something like that? Do they
Yeah.
know like how it works, the time frame it takes, or sometimes they
Yeah.
get overboard with that?
Uh, some of them have a better idea than others, but yeah, we get a lot of that. Like, hey, we're here, it's not that it's 200 phones, it's 200 locations
Oh,
all
okay.
over.
Okay.
And at each location, it might not be a lot of work. It might only be 4 or 5 hours of work,
Mhm.
but there's 200 of them. And we got to make sure the equipment's on site. We got to get a body on site. We got to run the cable. We got to plug in the switches. We got to make sure it comes online. There's a
Mhm.
lot of stuff that happens in those 4 or 5 hours, times that many sites. So yeah, sometimes the time frames are a little unrealistic. But we've had enough experience to give a real picture of, okay, here's what that's going to look like. In order to hit that, we got to do 10 a day. And that 10 a day, it means we're calling your support to make sure you see it online. Can you support that? And a lot of them can't. So
Huh.
we slow it down to 5 a day and they give us a little extra ramp. So
All right. So what's the biggest project you did? The biggest like installation of how many plan or
yeah, our biggest single installation is actually wrapping up right now.
oh
1,700 network cables. Um, that's the total cables, and it involves cameras and access points and workstations and access control. And what else do they have? There was something else, but a lot of stuff on their network. And so just a huge site. So that was our biggest single location job.
hmm,
We started that in May. We're wrapping up
yeah.
uh, in December, I think. I hope.
Goddamn.
And so that was our biggest single one. I think our biggest multiple location is actually um, 270 locations, was changing out a handful of access points and core switches and just upgrading the network on all these sites. So,
Hmm.
um, and that one had a very unrealistic time frame, and we almost made it. But they couldn't get the equipment. So that kind of saved us. They were running out of switches. So everything was back ordered. So that bought us a little time, but we pulled it off.
Hmm. And you talked about like installing a lot of like VoIP phone. Is there like new techs that come in like in the past like maybe 3 years or so? Is there like new techs coming in that you guys have to like on the fly kind of understand it or learn
Mhm.
on it, or like not really? It's always still the same since the last maybe 10 years or so.
It's funny. I would say 15 years ago, we had a lot of phone guys
Yeah.
that didn't understand networking.
Hmm.
And then we had networking guys that didn't understand phones. And so that has, most people, it's all network stuff now. So
Hmm.
finding those old school phone guys to maybe hook up an alarm line or a
Hmm.
elevator line or something like that, they're hard to find now.
Hmm.
But we keep most of the knowledge base in-house. So what I mean by that is, when we're deploying that many that quickly, there's no training process to get our techs, right?
Hmm.
So we do the training inside with our partner of what they do. They give us whatever tools they can, and or they have some support for us as well.
Hmm.
And so we're kind of the brains and we got the hands out there. And so most of our jobs, one of our in-house people is also involved. I mean, if it's just pulling cable, we're not doing anything. But if it's plugging these things in, they get plugged in. We're the ones looking to make sure they're configured right, online, tested, looks good, next one. So
Hmm.
that's how we do it. It's
Hmm.
more scalable. It's also a real benefit to our partners in the sense that uh, we could, start a project. Every project starts with a great scope of work.
Hmm.
Here's it is. We get 10, 20 sites in, and we're like, hey, this one thing is causing a problem. And so they might say, hey, we want to change this. We want to also add this and maybe take this out or do this differently. They can feed that to us, and those changes take effect on the next job, literally on the next job. Could be the same day, but for sure, whatever the next job is, those changes in scope are implemented quickly rather than trying to communicate it to, 2,000 techs out there. So
Nice. So
that's,
coming back to your business, I think you just talked about having one of your biggest client or just finished one of the biggest
yeah.
clients. So what's working well for pipeline networks right now on your side?
Yeah. So, what is working well, we do a lot of the multi-location has really become our sweet spot.
Okay.
To the point of what I just mentioned, that there can be a change in scope and it can be implemented quickly.
Mhm.
That has really become our sweet spot. Um, so that's working very well. The gains in technology that we have today, there's a lot of resources out there for finding local talent and vetting local talent.
Hmm.
and getting them onboarded quickly. So there's several companies out there that have kind of become a hub for that, and that's been a real help. When I started, I'd get a job and it's somewhere in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, and I would literally go on Google, find the job site, search around there for local, IT type companies. I'd have to negotiate rates and talk to them about what I need, and it was just a lot of work. It's now handled much more quickly because there's sites out there where you can find people quickly and easily. That has just made our life a lot easier. It's also made it a little more competitive, Yeah, kind of like Uber did for, driving. There's lot of people out there and it drove costs down. Um, we've sort of followed that same trend using technology to bring costs down. So
Around what time did you saw like those new those people getting interested into networking like really booming? Because you just said like right now there's so many people in there. Was there like a time frame like maybe COVID or sometime where you actually saw like people being so interested in that and actually come into this industry like around?
companies getting into the tech industry, or you mean
No, just
the
the
technicians?
technicians, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the world kind of changed, didn't it then?
Yeah.
So a lot of people kind of took it upon themselves to maybe they were laid off or whatever, but they had a skill set. And so they
Mhm.
were able to put themselves into the marketplace as sort of a freelance.
Oh, okay.
So, so yeah, that I think that had a lot to do with it. I think it's kind of always been there.
Mm,
A lot of tech installation companies have been one man teams,
mm,
one or very small, and there's a lot of them out there. And so being able to utilize that, it's good for both of us. They're nimble and we can provide them work. Most techs are great at what they do and not they don't want to be out selling,
yeah.
or they're not good at it, or they don't like it.
Mhm.
So we sort of bring that together with them to we'll provide the work, do what you do best, and it works out good.
That's nice. So what's the biggest challenge of the business then? If everything is good client-wise, is there any challenges on your side?
Yeah, every day. Why we started an hour late. Um, there are always challenges. You know, with I mean, a lot of it is finding the right people, finding the right skill set, and that skill set is constantly evolving in with different products. A network is a network is a network, but
Hmm.
the products all kind of have unique needs, which create some confusion sometimes of what the real problem is. Is it the internet service provider? Is it the hardware itself? Is it the media that's connecting it? Whether it's Wi-Fi or cable. So there's a lot of moving parts, and I cut my teeth. I started pulling cable way before Cat 5, like before internet. I remember installing a phone line for internet, and this guy was explaining it to me, and I thought, this is the weirdest thing I've ever heard of. What do you mean? Like, I didn't have the internet when I started in this business, and so it has changed so much since then, uh, and it hasn't slowed down. There's constant change. So that's I don't know. I get it is a challenge, but it's also the fun part, right? I mean, I know it doesn't look like it, but it sort of keeps you young, keeps you learning, and so that, and then, but I think with most businesses, the people becomes the problem, finding the right people. We've fortunately been in business 15 years now. So we've got a really great core group of installers, and keeping those relationships tight as I see some of my best ones start to retire now, and
Oh no.
and so you're constantly having to refresh and find new.
How do you stay on top of like those new techs? Is it always like training or do you know like the clients you're working with tells you like, hey, this probably come in and we probably want to implement that. So you kind of like go into
Mhm.
learning that? Like how do you keep
Yeah.
on touch and on top of that?
Yeah, it's whenever we have a new one, I usually am doing an interview type with
Okay.
them and kind of sniff out competency pretty well, I
Hmm.
feel. I've well, I shouldn't say this, but because every time I say I've seen it all, something new happens.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen enough, but one of my skill sets has always been kind of seeing around the corner, what's
Mm.
coming, and whether that's a problem that could arise from this path or new technology that's coming. And so usually vetting those people, it starts with an interview, starts with referrals, that kind of thing. Once we use them, we keep track of that very well. Whether they've met expectations, exceeded it, what their skill set is, and we categorize everybody if they're great cabler but not a great network guy, and sort of having to constantly be on top of who's who and getting the right person to the right place at the right time. That's what we do. So we try to track it as best we can, but it's moving so fast, it sometimes is unfortunately you find out on the job that, hey, he wasn't as skilled as we thought. We take responsibility for that. We try to we try to augment that. So anybody, we feel like we could get just about anybody that has a good attitude and is professional and a smile and a good set of tools that
Yeah.
we can make the job successful uh, with our team and theirs.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
I think your job could be related to that at some point if you get that opportunity. But we talk a lot about data centers right now for like
hmm
AI. Do you think
hmm
your business could be one of the business that actually take care of a data center at some point, or if you maybe even did already?
Yeah.
Do you think your company could be able to build all that infrastructure?
You know, I don't know that we're the best fit for that, just to be honest. That requires uh, a certain expertise that, yes,
Okay.
some of our guys have.
Hmm.
Those are long-term projects.
Hmm.
Where we're better fit is hey, we've got to deploy this many and do it quickly all over, and we can get in and we get out.
Mm.
Um, we obviously do big jobs from time to time, the one I mentioned in Carlsbad, but
Yeah.
um, data centers, a lot of them, they do that themselves. They have their own in-house staff to do that,
Okay.
and they don't readily outsource due to security reasons. So it's not necessarily a great fit for us, but
Hmm.
it'd be nice. There's a lot of them going up.
Yeah, yeah, I mean that's basically all we hear right now. It's like all those millions and millions that are going into new data centers for possible AI coming up. So it's like
Mhm.
that could be a good angle for your business if that
Yeah,
actually you could hit at some point.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely could be. Yeah,
hmm.
yeah,
So thinking about like just the future, what's the next goals for the next maybe new year, 6 to 12 month?
yeah, yeah. You know, it's one thing I never sit down and focus enough on, but our sweet spot when we started, we were focused on voice over IP providers because that's where I came from,
Yeah.
and so those we're going after that. But we have over time found that we're a really great fit for MSPs.
Mhm.
And so we're trying to focus our marketing on servicing that industry. We've also, in the last year and a half, almost well, a couple of years, have dipped our toe into the channel. So in telecom, I don't know if you know what that is, but in telecom, there's they
Yeah.
call it the channel,
Mhm.
and you have companies like internet providers, voice over IP providers, technology providers that sell their stuff. AT&T, I mean, we've all heard of that. Cisco, these kinds of companies. So they sell to dealerships, and as a salesperson, I can go into the channel and I can provide you your internet, your phone service, your hosted desktop, all these kind of services, your cybersecurity through the channel. And I'm just bringing in these different channels, and you earn commissions, and that's how you make your money. So
Hmm.
we've put ourselves out into the channel in the past couple of years as kind of a test, and it has been very fruitful. We're basically another product. So somebody can go into the channel and say, I need internet. Here's the five providers of this address. Here they sign the paperwork, they turn it in. They can now say, oh, we also need professional services, installation services, whatever they call it. They can, through the channel, find us and offer that to their company, to their customers. So whereas before they would say, well, you need some cabling done. Well, I got a guy for that. Oh, well, we need it done at 10 locations. Oh, my guy's, here. Everybody has a guy, right?
Mhm.
So we can now you can say, I got a guy, and our reach is anywhere in the US, Canada, Mexico, and Puerto Rico, we've started doing so.
Hmm.
You know.
Okay. Are you expanding into new countries maybe at some point or?
Yeah. Well, oh, besides those, the Mexico and Puerto Rico have been new for us.
Okay.
So I'm a slow growth kind of guy because I don't like jumping into something I don't feel I have an expertise. And as we grow, I'm realizing I need to bring that expertise in so that we could do that.
Mhm.
Um, so Canada, we've been doing quite a while, and that was successful. Mexico and Puerto Rico have been newer for us, mainly because of the language barrier, but we've got that handled now. So yeah, so those are kind of expanding into those a little more and increasing our footprint in the channel so that more people know about us.
How do you guys expand in that new angle of niche, I'd say?
Yeah.
Do you guys like do special marketing and what's the plan?
A little bit, I'm an install operations guy, so marketing is probably my weakest point.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get some help with that.
Mm.
But I go to a lot of trade shows
Okay.
where these people meet. I'm thinking next year we may actually have our own booth to offer that and introduce ourselves that way. We haven't done that in the past. I just kind of walk the floor and meet people. And being in the business as long as I have, I know a lot of people who know a lot of people, and it's a very close-knit, I think, community.
Hmm.
Everybody knows everybody. And that's why we take our our relationship with if you're our customer, we're visiting your customers. We
Yeah.
take that so seriously because you burn one person, everybody will know it.
Mhm.
And so that's something we're heavily focused on,
Hmm.
just respecting that and building naturally, I guess, or organically, whatever you call it.
Nice. So before we close, for the listeners who wants to join you, your team, or reach you, what's the best way to be in touch with you guys?
Yeah. Our website's pipelinenetworks.com. And our phone number's on there. You can email me. It's just Chris at pipelinenetworks.com. And we got a great team. Anybody could help you out and kind of introduce you to what we do. And we have customers from, that use us twice a year to customers that use us, 10 times a day. So we're sort of nothing's too small for us, and we like to think nothing's too big, and constantly testing that. So
There
far,
you
so
go.
good.
Gotta
Yeah.
see, gotta see big.
Yeah.
Perfect. So thanks again, Chris, and this was super nice as a conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.